Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware. I know it's been a little bit of time since I posted a video, but today I was just cruising along the inner tubes and I came across a PC Perspective article that pointed me in the direction of a new ASRock X570 mini-ITX motherboard that piqued my interest because it has a unique feature that I don't really think is a great feature, but it's unique, so let's talk about it. Now, before we get talking about these two different motherboards, one of these is going to be somewhat of a normal mini-ITX X570 setup, and it was the first one on the market to my knowledge. And this second one from ASRock is the weird one, and there's just one main feature that I want to point out. But regardless, both the links to these motherboards, these are Newegg links, will be in the description down below. These are not affiliate links. They're the only places I could actually find these motherboards right now. So down the road someday, I may update them with Amazon links, but if I don't, the way to find these motherboards on Amazon is simply to go to Amazon and search for them. Hopefully they hit that marketplace eventually as well. But right now they're just on Newegg, so those links are down below. So let's flip over to my MacBook Pro, and yes, I know it's a MacBook Pro, it's my daily driver laptop, whatever. I already kind of mentioned this, but these are basically the only two mini-ITX X570 motherboards that are readily available, and the Gigabyte one can't even really be described as being readily available because, well, it's not available right now. It's out of stock for $220. So right off the bat, these motherboards are significantly more expensive than some X470 or X370 or B350 or B450 mini-ITX boards. So the recommendation I'm gonna just throw out there right now just real quickly is if you're not gonna make use of the PCIe 4.0, then get yourself an X470 motherboard that's a mini-ITX board because you're gonna save yourself a lot of money, and the VRMs are gonna be almost as good in most cases, if not just as good for these mini-ITX boards, because frankly, it's really hard to put on a really solid VRM on a mini-ITX board like this. It looks like the Gigabyte one has a decent VRM, but of course nothing special, and certainly nothing that you couldn't find on an X470 variant. And if we flip over here to the ASRock one, it honestly looks like it's in a similar boat. It looks like it does have a better heatsink solution there, but again, it's not an overly beefy VRM. It's not something that's gonna completely blow out of the water an X470 version. So if you're trying to save some money, don't get one of these. They are really expensive right now. But the feature that I wanted to draw your attention to on the ASRock one that is not the case on the Gigabyte model is the mounting solution. And right now we're zoomed in on the mounting solution for the Gigabyte model, and you'll notice it is the typical AM4 mounting solution. We have those clips already installed, which a lot of coolers at this point, you remove those clips but still utilize the back plate on the AM4 sockets. This is completely normal, and if you've used anything from B350, A320, or X370 onward on the AM4 platform, you are completely used to seeing this. But if we flip over here to the ASRock mounting solution, you'll notice that is not the prescribed AM4 mounting points that you would see on pretty much every other AM4 motherboard out there. Those are Intel socket 1150 whatever mounting points. So any of those 1150 sockets, 1151, 1155, 56, all those sockets use this mounting solution, and it looks like the major reason ASRock went this direction is simply because this saves a little bit of space. The AM4 mounting solution takes up a little bit more space, especially with those clips on the motherboard, than does an Intel solution. So ASRock, looking at the state of coolers, knowing that most people are probably gonna be pairing their AM4 Ryzen 3000 chips with their own coolers, especially in a mini-ITX setup, you're probably gonna put something really low profile on them, and knowing that all those coolers come with those Intel mounting brackets, just went ahead and went with the Intel mounting points instead of the AM4 ones. Now, this is actually a place that I wanna give ASRock a little bit of credit for being a little bit more creative than you might see from other motherboard manufacturers, because space, just looking at the PCB here, is quite clearly at a major premium on these mini-ITX X570 motherboards, and every little bit of space you can save is gonna make this motherboard a little bit better. Maybe traces are a little bit less cramped. Maybe they can come up with better routing for some of those traces. I'm not an engineer for these motherboards, obviously, but that being said, I do know that trace routing actually is a major problem with some motherboards, and especially when you're working with very tight spaces, solving those problems can become a little bit difficult, and by opening up just a little bit more space, this probably allowed ASRock to be a little bit less creative with the tracing and actually could utilize the space in the motherboard a little bit more fully, versus if they had to have that major backplate on it and have those plastic mounting brackets over top of some of the motherboard. This is probably just the easiest way they saw to pack everything on an X570 motherboard. But that's not to say this motherboard doesn't have any major drawbacks at all. In fact, using this mounting solution has one major drawback, potentially, and this is not confirmed with really any different coolers that I'm aware of right now, but Intel CPUs and AMD CPUs do not have the same exact CPU height, and when a cooler manufacturer is designing their mounting brackets for Intel, they're keeping in mind that you're going to be using these on an Intel CPU, not an AMD one. So when you go to tighten those down using those Intel mounting points, it's entirely possible that you could end up with maybe a screw that's not long enough, a screw that's way too long. Maybe you could potentially over tighten something very easily and break your motherboard. So if you're going to go this route, the other big recommendation that I have, other than just avoiding X570 on the mini-ITX platform regardless, which is what I would do because I don't use PCIe 4.0 and most people don't, but if you must have this motherboard and if it's just your must-have piece for your new system, make sure not to over tighten your cooler, because it may be that it's easier to do on this motherboard setup because of that height difference between an AMD CPU and an Intel one. It's more of a precaution. I think it's going to work out just fine in the vast majority of cases, but it's something else to bear in mind as you install a CPU here. Just make sure that you're keeping in mind you want your CPU cooler snug. You don't necessarily need to tighten it beyond belief. So everything here being said, I am actually really impressed with this ASRock motherboard in so much that it's a creative solution to a problem that we didn't so much see being at least in the forefront of past mini-ITX motherboards from the AMD side of things, at least on the AM4 platform. So it's a creative solution. I like the solution. It utilizes hardware that most coolers already come with anyway. Obviously, if you were planning on using the AMD stock coolers from the get-go, you're a little bit out of luck on that front. They are gonna sort of force you into getting an Intel compatible cooler, but I do want to hear what you guys think of this type of solution. Is this something that you want to see more of? Do you want to see maybe even AMD and Intel, and I don't think they're gonna ever collaborate on this, but maybe motherboard manufacturers moving those mounting points to being one unified mounting solution? Let me know your thoughts on this motherboard and this particular solution in those comments down below. And of course, if you like the video, hey, give it a like, share, subscribe, and comment. All those things are very helpful to the channel. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.